when young women's dreams were spun by the songs of romance heard each day on the wireless. Though that was 50 years ago, sweet memories never die.
I'll be happy making you glad. I'll be sorry when you are sad. Let me give my happiness to you.
For Pam Barry, the one and only voice who is always happy to make her glad is that of a crooner of the swinging 30s who rivaled even Bing Crosby. He was Al Bowley. And every evening, Pam Barry devotes 1 hour to hearing him sing. At the peak of his career, Al Bowley's songs were world famous.
The mere idea of you, the longing here for you, you'll never know how slow the moments go till I'm near to you. I see your face in every flower, your eyes in stars above. It's just the thought of you, the very thought of you, my love.
Pam Barry's life in show business started when she was but a girl. In those heady days, one had to be versatile. She could sing and dance, and she played the drums in concert party bands. At exactly the same time, Al Bowley was on his road to success and into Pam's life.
This one, I don't know when this one was taken. It was on the back of a magazine cover, I think I got it. It's just a paper one. This one was taken in South Africa by a photographer friend of the Bowley family. This was getting on the boat to come back from America. And this is Al with Lou Stone's band. Of course, Al was an excellent guitarist and banjoist.
Al Bowley's big break came in January 1931, when he was signed up by Roy Fox to record and play with his band. He was at that time the guitarist, just to the left of Roy Fox, who was conducting. During the next 2 years, he recorded nearly 150 numbers with that band.
This little one is my favourite. I have this by my bedside table. That's my husband. He was a comedian producer. He ran his own concert parties.
Pam always called him Daddy. He too had been a fan of Al's, and fortunately for all of them, they became good friends.
I was enraptured with this voice, and we had a extension from the lounge into the living room, onto a little horn on the mantelpiece. I've often heard Daddy tell this story to people. He said, Pam suddenly, her eyes fixed on the horn, and she got up and walked slowly across to it and put her arms round it and laid her head against it. And then I said to Dad, I said, isn't he marvellous? Some friends of Daddy's, there were a gentleman and a lady, they asked us out to dine with them at the Savoy. Of course, I didn't know this was arranged, but evidently Daddy had told them about me being so madly in love with Al. And so they asked us to dine with them at the Savoy. And the gentleman told the waiter to take a note to Al, asking him to come down to the table in the interval. And he came down, and we both were introduced, and we just stared at each other. We couldn't take our eyes off each other. It was really very silly, I suppose. He wanted to marry me right away. And of course, I was married. And he asked Daddy, thinking it quite a normal thing to do. And he asked him the second day we knew him. And of course, Daddy was shocked at it. And he said, no, certainly not. But I asked him why not. He said, because Al wouldn't take care of you like I do. Because Al was 8 months younger than me. Daddy was 6 years older. And anyway, it went on, but he said, you can see Al all as much as you like, but you're not getting married. And that's just how it was.
In 1933, Al Bowley appeared in his first of several feature films. His most enchanting song was Wedding of the Slumtown Babes.
When you're blue and feel a bit low, weary of the road you're treading, come with me to Paradise Row, see the happy slum kids' wedding. Little baby Joe, they say, marries baby Lou today. Baby Joe's in an old top hat, fancy getting married in a hat like that. But bless his heart, he looks real smart at the wedding of the slumtown babies. Baby Lou's looking sweet and pale, wearing mother's curtain for a bridal veil. And all the street say, ain't she sweet, at the wedding of the slumtown baby. I'm sweetheart mine.
Al Bowley cut his first known vocal record in Germany in 1927. By the end of 1931, he had already recorded 425 songs. His very last title, recorded in April 1941, was number 1056.
Al gave me the first few that I had as they were made in London. He'd bring one round that he'd made that day, you know. I had about 22, I think. That's all. And then I've got all the rest myself. Advertised for them, if I've seen any advertised. Or sometimes I've gone to sales, house sales, and poked among their musical things to see if there happened to be even one.
Come to me, my melancholy baby. Just cuddle up and don't be blue. All your fears are foolish fancy, maybe. Why, you know, honey, I'm in love with you.
Al took these very personal snaps of Pam on one of his brief visits to Liverpool. She had always believed that their meeting was destined to occur.
When I was in show business, Daddy bought me a mouse from Mousetown in Glasgow. It was a beautiful black mouse with bright brown eyes. And Daddy said, what should we call him? And I thought for a minute, this was before I'd ever known Al. And I said, I'll call him Bowley. B-O-L-I, just B-O-L-I, Bowley. And after I met Al, I told him the story, and he was intrigued as to know why I called it Bowley. I said, I don't know it. I said, it just came into my head, Bowley. And he said, that was because we were coming towards each other. That was premonition. We were in some digs, and a big cat came in and grabbed Bowley off the table and rushed with him out the back over garden fences, and me after him. Anyway, his back was all torn and a leg broken. He'd lived a few hours, that's all. And Alice was very upset about this, although he hadn't even seen Bowley. He said, you know, there was a great thing between Bowley and me. He said, and Bowley's death like that means I'm going to die suddenly in some awful way.
In the early hours of April 17th, 1941, Al Bowley was killed instantly by the blast of a landmine as he slept in his bed. 9 days later, he was taken to his final resting place, a communal grave for air raid victims in a cemetery at Hanwell in London. Apart from his devoted fans who loved his music when it was fashionable, people who hear him for the first time still agree that his voice had an immortal quality.
Someone I can't forget.
When Daddy was dying, almost the last words he said, Pam, I often wish I'd have let you go to Al. He said, he'd have been here now and he wouldn't have made a hash of his life. But there you are. Said we always do the wrong things.
In a blue and pensive mood, we meet again. Before this vision dies, oh, let me close my eyes and dream that love is sweet